Hey, Motti, how you doing?
Oh, I am fabulously amazing. How are you, Randy?
Excellent, thank you. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Everybody, I am delighted to have Motti Finkelstein with us here today. He is a longtime friend for sure. This is episode number 189 of Tech Sales Insights. He is the Corporate Vice President and Chief Information Officer at Intel. We have an awesome title topic today, which is enterprise selling to CIOs and CTOs. I want to say thank you to ZoomInfo, who is the go-to-market platform sponsor of Sales Community. Awesome product. Everybody knows them for having the best of the best in terms of contacts, but also have some other great offerings around intent and ABM and a cool Copilot offering. Also, for those that are members of Sales Community, thank you so much. For those that are not, Tucker will post a free link that people can use to join. And we've got a impressive advisory board, bunch of go-to-market executives, CIOs like Motti and others in there as well. So by way of introduction, Motti lives in Hollywood, Florida, on the east coast of Florida. As several of you know, I'm Naples. I'm actually in Dana Point, California now. And he's got 3 awesome kids, 2 that are married, actually 4 grandkids. So you are, although technically you are just barely younger than me, you are definitely ahead of me on the grandkid front. So I'll have to get my kids in gear. By virtue of a sports fan, he's self-declared as Switzerland because his kids are split between New York and Boston, so he can't take any allegiances. But at least good news is there's always some train you can jump on of somebody that's winning, right?
Well, it's like this. It's my kids and my son-in-law. I have a son-in-law, daughter-in-law. I have to be Switzerland.
There you go. Awesome. Nobody better than that as well. And we're trying to figure out how we met. And we think it was probably about 20 years ago when I was at Storage Tech. I was actually, I think, running the East for sales, which is inclusive of financial services. And Motti was at Intel. And I've got
City.
What's that? Oh, I said city. Sorry, I meant city. Yeah, but I remember over in New Jersey, it was you, Martin Kennedy, Stemler, a couple others, right? You had kind of, depending what you were doing, you were kind of the deal guy, right? So okay, if you got through, kind of Stemler on the solution side, then you go to you. And you'd be like, okay, here's where we're going to get totally, okay, here's the money. And you got every excuse in the world why you should get a better deal and how you're going to package this. But
you remember that Tony used to call me the CNO, right?
DeSano, that's right. Yes, DeSano was there as well. But it was just so great. And obviously I called on lots of, companies over the years. But, as hard as you guys were, you were such a great team. And I learned so much from not just selling, but kind of just, true kind of partnering with kind of what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? There's always, I'll say, creative budget constraints, and how can you kind of flex within that, and really getting a good understanding of kind of what your goals were, what you need to do, and different, depending which way the wind was blowing or what time of year it was, you had kind of different needs in terms of products and offering and deal flexibility, but you're always just so great to deal with, always there, and certainly we're not shy. If it was the middle of the night that something hit the fan that wasn't working, you would call, but just really a true long-term partnership.
So very timid and shy, right, Randy? Very timid.
Yeah, but it was so that would have been Storage Tech, and then Sun Microsystems we did a lot, and then HP had done a lot, so it was just kind of rinse and repeating with the whole thing. But anyway, just so great to work with and so great to partner with. So thanks for that, and thanks for helping teach me so much of my career as well.
I'm actually sad, Randy, that I didn't get to to join you and Scott. I used to sit on Scott's advisory board many years ago in Sun Microsystems.
McNeely, yep.
Yeah, Scott McNeely. Just I remember the announcement when Oracle bought them. Actually, the advisory board was at the St. Regis Hotel in San Francisco, and he goes, "Tomorrow you're all going to Oracle Open World."
That's a great crazy story on that one there for sure. And then also to help me with introduction, Pat Gelsinger, who's CEO of Intel, and I've known him for a lot of years since his VMware days. Just so as a side note, right? I mean, he's just so responsive and on it, and you get these executives these days who think their heads, they're better than everybody else, and he's was immediate response from when I asked to help with an intro comment. So he's got a different spin, which you may be surprised about. Pat says, given we are both men of faith, Pat Christian and Motti Jewish, he has shown up for a few one-on-ones with his topic list and a scripture to support his view and insights on the topic. We quite enjoy the little insights as we have a bit of synagogue together while he effectively uses it to make his points to me. So you got to tell me more about that.
Yes, actually a true story. Look, you're not going to find a person with more integrity than Pat. I mean,
absolutely.
But Pat is an amazing person. Just absolutely amazing. And sometimes I tend to read the scriptures every week. You got some interesting insights that I share and Pat enjoys. So it's all good.
Awesome. I actually, by chance, I have my own little daily prayer book I use as well. But I give him credit. It's a touchy subject talking about faith in the workplace, but he's probably the most outspoken of any corporate CEOs around the topic. And it's not to convince somebody to be one faith or another, but just I think the goodness that can come from having some spirituality and faith, and it's a very individual thing in terms of how you approach it and what you do and how you do it. But he's been amazing in that area.
Fair. I think it's important to restate that, again, it's not about this faith or another. It's about examples that you see, how leadership works, how judgment works. Well, again, you can agree or disagree, but it's an example. It's almost like, here's the experience that you've had in your life.
Right.
And you can learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have to dig in a little bit deeper. So you actually will share some of those insights and readings to then help make points that you're trying to make to him. There's probably no comeback, right? Okay, well, here's what it says.
No. Again, this is, if you think about it, you can see many things that are done this way or that way. At the end of the day, Pat is the CEO. He has to decide the right approach, the right time for the right thing. I can just bring, here's an example like this, here's an example like that. But at the end of the day, he's the boss, right? And, we're going to follow through whatever he wants us and the vision he has and the direction he has. We're going to go through that. But sometimes it's important to have that, example and insight of, it can be done this way, it can be done that way. What is the approach you want to take?
Yep, absolutely. So great help with intro comments there from Pat for sure. And not that you need more awards, but recently you won the Orbi Super Global CIO Award last week, and then yesterday you were named to the Forbes CIO Next list. So you're just racking up. You're going to need an extra room to put all your trophies in, I think.
Yep. Thank you.
And you're, I always like to ask everybody, so their first job out of college. So you were graduated from Jerusalem College of Technology, and you actually started in the systems side, appropriately enough.
Well, if you think about it, I've been very fortunate to have a very interesting life and career as well. I've had every portion of my education, and I've moved from Israel, from the U.S. to Israel, Israel to the U.S., back and forth. I've had every form of my education in both countries. And my first, I started college in the U.S. I graduated college, as you mentioned, in Jerusalem College of Technology. And I started, my first job out of college was the Israeli Air Force Computer Unit, which was a fascinating experience. I mean, the technology and capabilities that you learn and the types of roles that you have to do is just incredible. Someone once said to me that what you manage to do in 6 months in a year, some people don't do in 20 years. And, you know, in real life, not in the military, just because you don't have the time and you have to learn a lot and you have to do a lot within the time that you're there.
Yeah, amazing. And then if you can briefly just go through your impressive career from there.
Sure. So I was in the Israeli Air Force computer unit for almost 6 years. Then I was, and this was fascinating. I worked for the city of New York, and some of you may recall many years ago, the city of New York decided to consolidate all its agency computer units and all its data centers and create one agency. It was originally the Computer and the Data Services Agency, then became the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications. We built a whole big data center in downtown Brooklyn, consolidated all the data centers from across every agency that you can imagine for the city of New York. Fascinating, fascinating work. Learned a lot, had many roles in that. And after that, I went to Citibank. That's where we met. Actually, originally it was Citibank, and then John Reed was the CEO in those days until the merger with Sandy Weil and Travelers and Smith Barney and previously Solomon and Smith Barney that merged. So a lot of years there. Sometimes I laugh. I was 23 years at the city, and I think I had about 10 different roles in those 23 years. So fascinating experience. Anything you can imagine, from operational work in technology to engineering work in technology to both, and so on. And then, I thought I retired, but I guess
You're doing a miserable job at that, by the way.
I'll tell you, it just I figured it wasn't time yet. So I decided to retire. I became a senior advisor at McKinsey. I sat on a bunch of advisory boards, a bunch of VCs, and so on. And then one of the companies I worked with was Bank of Montreal, and they asked me to be the CTO. I was there. Great experience, great company. And then I get a text one day. Do you want to come and help?
From Greg?
I was from Greg Lavender. Many of you know Greg, and he said this can be really interesting, and it is one of the most fascinating jobs I've ever had. The talent at Intel is just bar none incredible. Actually, whether you think it's hard or easy, my main focus is focus, execution, and discipline. Those are because the talent is there. It's just prioritize right, focus on the right priorities, have the discipline to execute as fast as possible, and just execute, execute, execute.
Yeah, great. I mean, great leadership lessons there, whether you're, CIO side or if you're a go-to-market leader. So tell us more about your role at Intel and any kind of similarities or differences to kind of CIO role there versus a BMO or a city.
So let me start with Intel. Like I said, it's a great place. Intel, my focus area, and I like to talk about focus areas, is one, we have a huge ERP, or something we call IEO, IDM 2.0 Acceleration Office. Huge ERP effort, but it's not the ERP. It's the fact that we're changing all the business processes, a lot of things in the business, and IT is enabling all that. The second item that we're really focused on is AI and all the AI capabilities that can be brought to all the business units as well as to IT. And then my third big focus is IT for IT. And that's really operational excellence. What can we do? We have to change. We have to do things in a more automated fashion, in a better fashion, more efficient, and so on. So a lot of focus there. Now, there are many things. So as Pat likes to say, you own all the internal IT, because I'm not creating the products, but all the businesses that design the products, or the product side, and the entire corporation, they leverage IT to do their jobs and roles. So that's kind of the remit of the role. Um, differences and similarities between Citi, BMO, as well as Intel. The core of IT, at the end of the day, is there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
We all have HR systems. We all have legal considerations, contract considerations. We all have, basics that are the same. And then we have things that leverage the same technology for different purposes. Well that in financials, we have huge grids, right? Well, guess what? At Intel, I have huge grids. Well, in financials, I do risk calculations. I may do algo trading. I may do risk. Well, guess what? At Intel, I have to do design simulations, chip design, simulations of it, testing of it, and so on. So there is a lot of what I'm going to call it, if you understand the basics of things, there's a lot of similarities. There are some things that, I enjoyed learning, and that's really around the supply chain and some of those components and some of the manufacturing pieces. But a lot of the underlying capabilities, you can create the right analogies between the industries.
Wow, that's great. And a lot of people don't realize Intel's business model, amongst other things, is actually you design, manufacture, and sell, where a lot of your competitors are really kind of on the set, maybe design a little bit, they don't manufacture, and they certainly sell. So theoretically, you controlling more of that supply chain and ecosystem over time should continue to be a competitive advantage. And obviously, everybody's seen the press about the big fab places that you're building in the U.S. and all that.
Correct. And that was actually one of Pat's big efforts and this vision. So we announced this, as you may have seen, Intel Foundry, which is the fabrication and manufacturing arm,
right,
is a wholly owned subsidiary now. We have Intel Product, which designs the products, and then Intel Corporate, which is the thin layer on top. But really, that structure now, you asked me about financial services. If you go to any large financial corporation, you have the corporate layer, you have the corporate investment bank,
right.
Very different business model than the retail bank. Again, this is not chip making, this is not manufacturing, but again, you can create some similarities to understand this better.
Yeah, awesome. So for anybody watching or listening along, feel free to ask any questions or make any comments as we're going through here. So in terms of your role, or amazing role in terms of how you actually support the field sales team, you have the program called IT at Intel. So you match subject matter experts with sales reps, help with customers. Can you tell us more about that?
So, I call IT at Intel a small but mighty team. And not only are they fairly small, I actually expanded their focus area to a couple of things. So, one of the things they focused on is very close work with our sales and marketing organization, with Christoph Schell's team, and really helping customers have the conversation and understand how did we solve certain things, because as a customer you always want to know, okay, so how are you using your own products, how are you doing something, or can you let me know, even if it's not related to a specific chip or a specific solution. It's good to have that interaction and have that collaboration and camaraderie, even if it's one of the CIOs in the financial services asked me, so okay, what are you doing on ERP? What are you doing on this or that? And it's good to have that group, just like you have the group here, to ask and get advice. What IT at Intel is focused on the specifics. We published many white papers on how we do various things. We published an annual performance report for IT on the focus areas, which many of you can see that on LinkedIn. It's published, and
and that's a great collateral piece that your sales teams use, and they use that then also then kind of as a conversation
Correct.
starter.
And we tend to meet with the customers as well as they look at, all the latest and greatest that Intel Capital looks at, and other companies, other startups that maybe can benefit and help IT solve some of its challenges.
Yeah. Oh, great. So we have a question here from Aaron. Given Intel's recent restructuring and cost-cutting measures, how does the company plan to leverage AI in its go-to-market strategies to regain market share and drive revenue growth? Are you considering leveraging AI across your sales and revenue teams to accelerate execution and sell more?
So I'm going to say the following. The wonderful thing about Intel is that we have an incredibly talented organization. We are looking at AI in every single aspect. So we actually just completed a POC on some go-to-market AI. I'd have to look exactly at where that stands. But we also have what I call main areas of focus for AI. And the main areas are manufacturing. This is like the follow the money conversation.
Yeah.
Manufacturing, AI for manufacturing, AI for pre-silicon and the design side, and AI for post-silicon, as well as, believe it or not, and this is common across the industry, AI for software development. We have a lot of software development. Now, it doesn't mean that, as this question asks, that we're not doing this in other areas like sales and marketing. We are taking a close look at that, but those 4 areas are the main focus areas.
Gotcha. So not as much on the go-to-market sales side, more on the kind of internal manufacturing, design, software development side.
But we are in the midst of several POCs on the sales side.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Anything that you can share?
Not at the moment.
Gotcha. All right. No worries. Respect that. And then Matthew says, for number 2, priority of bringing AI to the business units, early successes have you seen? So this would be probably more on the go-to-market side. So it still sounds like it's
I can answer that more generically if you would like.
Sure.
So we started the approach. Look, at the end of the day, we want to do responsible AI. We want to make sure that the data stays where it needs to stay or goes if it can go, and so on. So we took the approach of where are all the benefits, and we had the case of 1,000 flowers blooming because everyone is all excited about AI, and it's a good thing to be excited about AI. But we want to do it in a secure way. We want to ensure the privacy. We want to ensure the security of the data, privacy, and so on. So we actually created this funnel. I'll call it our own IGBT. So we're enabling everyone at Intel to leverage AI, but in a secure fashion, and ensuring that the only appropriate data goes to where it can go, and we do on-prem as well, and that's a really key differentiator to how we manage this as a whole. And yes, we do this in the go-to-market space. We do it in all of sales and marketing, but at the end of the day, there is a lot of opportunity in the other spaces that I mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. So moving on. So you've seen a lot of the good and the bad over the years on the sales side. Any things on the good side that you'd share?
Oh, just like every place, there's, like you said, good and bad. I'll say the following. The best experiences I've had are salespeople that understand the challenges of their customer. I'll remind you of a story. I'm not going to mention names, but I'll remind you of a story when I had a very senior sales guy whom used to work for you, come to me and say, "Oh, I need to meet with you. I'm the sales guy." It was at Citi. "I'm the sales guy. I want to know how I can help you. I'm here to help you." And I said to him,
"Oh, hopefully I fired him."
Well, we strained it all out, but all he was telling me about the products he has without any relations to what I'm trying to solve. And I said, you have to understand, this is you asking me to help you to get your commission. If you want me to help you, at least say that. If you want to help me, first you have to understand what I'm trying to solve.
Right.
You need to understand my business, my challenges. And it's not always about, you know, just the product. It's about the solution as a whole. It's about that relationship. And look, you and I know that the really good salespeople, we've had relationships for years across companies, across,
Right.
you know, products, across everything, because you understand what I'm going after. And when you started this conversation, you actually mentioned, you know, we had to create, I'll pick on your days in Sun Microsystems. Uh, when you came out with the E25K, uh, we created a pay-per-view model. I paid by uniboards because that's how I charged the business units.
Yeah.
Right. It was a new creation. It didn't exist in those days.
Right. Yeah, totally. And then with your kind of collaborating with the sales teams there, you've got, kind of Christoph and others. So how does that relationship work?
You know, I once said to Christoph, and this is true, and you asked me about similarities. I said to Christoph, the sales and marketing group at Intel is just like the bankers in a bank. You know, at the end of the day, I used to go with, you know, the TMT bankers or other bankers to various companies, and we used to listen to the companies. We used to explain what we do and how we can work together. The same thing really in the sales and marketing team. You know, we have the conversation. I'm actually customer zero for many items. So, you know, I'm the person that gets to test things out first in a way, and provide the feedback on many things and make the suggestions that I can make. And sometimes they're accepted, sometimes not, and that's okay. But there is a fairly close relationship between IT and the rest of the business units and sales and marketing especially.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with working with Greg Ernst and then Christoph, any other things that you're engaged with in helping them?
So many of these items are, you know, if you pick on certain companies that we deal with, because we work with OEMs as well as we work with end customers, it's really that understanding of, okay, not only how do we solve it for them with Intel products, but how did we actually do it, or how do we think about it, or what approach do we want to take? And it's usually easier for practitioners to speak to practitioners in this space because then they feel it's real. Again, I'm not going to mention names. I've only mentioned the Sun Microsystem because they don't exist. But in the past, when I was in, you know, when I was in finance, many of my questions to the sales guys, and you know this well, was, okay, so what do you do in your own company? And can I talk to your CIO to hear about their experience with it and see how it actually worked for them and show me?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, by chance, I had last week had John Hinshaw on, who was a longtime CEO, Boeing, Verizon, HP. But at HP, you know, he'd served, you know, similar.
And then it was HSBC.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Now he's doing the Blackbird Winery.
Yeah.
Great wine for sure. And then working with it, you already mentioned.
And by the way, the new CIO at HSBC is Stuart Riley from Citi. It's you know, it's one of these families that we keep knowing each other.
There you go. Yeah, great people, and there's the great time there way back when, and it's great to see everybody moving on as well. So, what about any other kind of just sales kind of pet peeves that, you know, somebody calls you or they've got, you know, a meeting with you, which is obviously a big at bat just to get, you know, any limited time with you at all?
You know, I'm going to say this: there's a huge difference between a salesperson that did their homework and a salesperson that didn't. And doing the homework means understanding some different layers. There was a very successful CEO of a startup that once said the following to me. He said, I have one product, I have a small startup, but I have to speak 5 different languages because the engineer wants to know, why is my product unique and special? And I have to prepare for that. And their boss wants to know, why is it resilient? How is it available? How easy is it to maintain? How easy is it to operate and support? And I have to be prepared for that as well. And their boss wants to know, how much money am I going to save if I switch to this solution and I implement the solution? And then their boss wants to know, is this really innovative? Is this really a game changer? The good salesperson really needs to be able to answer all these questions, and for the right people at the right levels, have those answers. And that's how they earn the trust, and they end up with the right relationship.
Yep, absolutely. And then, talking about relationships, so maybe talk to the importance of that over the years.
It's funny. I've known you for I'm not even going to say how many years. I'm going to make myself feel old, but you're going to laugh in many cases. So when I went to BO, when I went to Intel, now that I'm at Intel, many times I will call, even though I have a new sales rep for a specific company for this or the other, many times I'll pull in some of the people that I know from the same company, just to ease in and get that comfort level.
Right.
And fortunately for a lot of people I know and a lot of people I'm friendly with, they've been very successful, just like you. And, they kind of have potentially much, much bigger roles, but that friendship lasts. And that trust, I'll make sure that this happens. I will do something. Let me introduce you to your new team. It means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about the importance of kind of value selling over the years?
So over the, that, again, this is actually part of that homework, because value has a couple of components that are critically important. And value, you have to understand how I see value. What's valuable to me? So you have to understand my constraints, my needs, and then you have to translate it into the value for my company and my business units. And every company, and this is quite interesting how, and you see the pendulum shift in this, and even in the same industry, how budgets are managed for IT, how recoveries are managed for, IT is a business unit in essence. And you can see, is IT charging back? Is it its own budget? How does it supply and interact with its customers? How do things get done? You need to understand that, because you're going to point to value. And, one of the things that and coming from many years in financials, I always, when we talk about value, there is the value of a revenue generation that we help internally. There is the value of cost avoidance, so we can do more with the same. But there's also the big value of savings. We can do the same or more with less. And those are really important differentiators, because at any point in time, a company is focused more on one or the other, or in several of those.
Yeah, absolutely. And over the years, I know you've had a lot of mentors. Any kind of one or two in particular and specific advice you received?
I've been very fortunate to meet with a lot of, industry leaders in the past and present. I have to mention Pat, whose integrity and vision is just amazing. I'll share the following. On my second week at Intel, Pat said to me, "We're doing this to save the world.
That's a mission.
Because we're doing this for world peace." And that's an amazing mission. And if you think about it in the scheme of things, world peace and that delicate balance is incredibly important. But I can name many people. I just don't want to start with specific companies. So I'm going to focus on people that have retired since. I learned a lot interacting with Joe Tucci, who you may remember from EMC.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot from. So there are a lot. Jim Whitehurst, who happens to be a really close friend, who used to be president of IBM and CEO of Red Hat.
Red Hat, yeah.
So I've been very fortunate to meet and learn from many people. And what I realized, fortunately, early on in my career, is that you get to pick the things that you can learn from every single person, because everyone has amazing qualities, and everyone has qualities you want to learn from someone else. But you just pick the right insights from the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, for sure. What about any shout outs to sales leaders that have impressed you along the way?
So one, I forgot to do a shout out to a really good friend, and happens to be my boss, Greg Lavender, who is an amazing visionary. Again, I'm gonna, apart from people at Intel, I'm gonna, if I talk about, look, our relationship was amazing when both when you were in storage tech, Sun, HP, at Intel specifically, I can say that the sales team is amazing. Christoph is great. Again, I don't want. I'm going to start mentioning names. I'm going to forget names, so I'm not.
No worries.
With various names, but it's really about that value selling, that platform selling, the solution selling, understanding what is driving the person you're talking to. And if you do that homework and you really speak their language, you just cut a lot of meetings, and you just created a much better relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't know if you want to say on air, but you actually have sales meeting later on today with a group that is selling to you as well.
That's correct. Again, here is an example of a really long-time friend. I've known him for a couple of decades. We'll leave it at that. And he actually suggested. He said, "Can you come talk to my team?" And he's a very senior guy today. Has a very large team. And I said, "Sure." It's good for both of us, and it's good for the industry as a whole, because if the salespeople know to speak the CIO's language, we can get through things much faster. It doesn't help anyone to prolong negotiations, dealings. And you know what? If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. But if it does fit, how do we get to end the job faster?
Absolutely. What about this? Any advice to your younger self?
I'm gonna say this. I've been very fortunate that I don't have any regrets, but I've also been very fortunate that I started my career in an era that IT and the business really understood each other very well. The IT people understood the business. Maybe the business people didn't always understand IT, but that integration and understanding of how to solve the business problems, we kind of lost that over the years because we became so specialized. You became the network guy, and you know what? I'm this network, and I'm that network, and I'm this storage guy, and I'm this compute guy, and all of a sudden, how do you put this whole thing together? How do you solve the business problem? Oh, we have a business. So the advice I give myself all the time, and I give my children as well, understand the business. If you don't study it, learn it, understand what the goals of the business are, and then figure out how within your capabilities you can make things better for the corporation as a whole.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, time flies when we have fun. I'm going to hold my breath when I ask the next question. So for people that have known me, I always like to ask if there's any PG Randy story to share.
I don't know if it's going to be PG, but so I'll tell you this. So I call Randy. We're in the middle of some deal, and I need to change something, and I need something done. And I call Randy, and it goes like this: the phone rings, and all of a sudden, hello.
Oh no!
I go, Randy. Yeah. Well, what's I go, Randy, are you okay? Are you having a heart attack or something? No, I'm running in Central Park. I go, then why are you picking up the phone? It can wait. He goes, no, I saw you calling, so I picked up the phone. I said, okay, finish running, call me back later. This is not that urgent. But that was a funny story. But on the other hand, it tells you the importance of a customer to a salesperson. But it also tells you that when you have that relationship, you know what? I could wait for you to finish your run in Central Park.
might have a heart attack. Yeah, and I do remember that, and I found out the hard way. You never think Central Park's that big until you actually go and run it. This is just massive. So every time now you fly over, I look at it, I just point out, you wouldn't believe how big Central Park is. That's crazy. But yes, and obviously for relationships and people like you, happy to do it. So you've been an amazing guest, so much wisdom, so much to share, so many great experiences that we've had. So thanks to Zoom Info, who's the go-to-market platform sponsor of Sales Community. And Tucker, as always, thanks for your help behind the scenes here. Wendy also posted that IT annual performance report. So folks, feel free to check that out. And for those that are members of Sales Community, thanks. For those that are not, feel free to get the free link. And otherwise, everybody happy selling. And we'll continue to be cheering for Intel and you and Greg and Pat and Christoph on the sideline.
Thank you, Randy. Always a pleasure chatting. Chatting with you.
Absolutely. And we have actually, after Thanksgiving, we have Dave Donatelli, who I think you remember. He's running Riverbed now. And then Dave Knorr, who's a relationship economic guru. Steve Hirsch, who's Rimini Street. And then we go into next year. So anyway, Motti, thanks so much. Appreciate it. And make sure you stay on here after we hang up.
Thank you. And if I don't mention it again, happy holidays and happy New Year.
Absolutely. All right. Everybody have a great